So on April 1st, when we decided that there would be a video coming up showing some rickshaw racing, did everybody think that we were actually joking at that point in time? Because the reality of the situation, as we find ourselves racing around the Buddha International Circuit here, the pride and joy of Indian racing circuit, the fact of the matter is everyone here is racing around in one of these. Everyone is trying to make sure they get the fastest times possible in qualifying. They get themselves to the front when it comes to racing. And to be quite perfectly honest, everyone's here hoping to have a good time. It's three wheels on the wagon. It's racing with IR eSports. It is some wonderful action that we are going to have bringing forward to you. My name's Jake Sperry. I've got Saiduth Ramesh alongside me here for the ride as we get ourselves into qualifying action at this moment in time in Assetto Corsa, having a little bit of a look around what is one of India's most premier circuits out there. Saiduth, though, into the conversation we go. This is such a difficult car, or I would say vehicle, to go and get around. It is, by all intents and purposes, a tuk-tuk. It is, by all intents and purposes, rear-wheel drive, and you don't really have much choice of it being rear-wheel drive. You've not got much to work with steering-wise on the front.
Absolutely, Jake. I mean, I would say this is unconventional at most to have this sort of a car and track combination. But what better way to to run an exhibition race than to have a nice little vehicle like this running on the Buddh International Circuit. Yeah, I would say it is a grade 1 circuit. These are cars that may not be fast enough to exploit the maximum limits of this track, but oh boy, these cars are definitely difficult to control. Just a little bit of information. This car, let's just call it car for the sake of simplicity, is actually based off the Piaggio Ape, and it's a heavily modded version on Assetto Corsa. Roughly 320 kgs, 93 horsepower. So you're getting roughly about 0.3 horsepower per kilogram for power to weight. Like you said, it's rear-wheel drive, but a lot of that weight is placed on the front tire. So at the limit of the corner, you're definitely going to see a lot of understeer, just like you can see what's happening to Sai Prithvi now as he exits that corner.
Yeah, and that's the penultimate corner out on circuit. You can see how much lean these tuk-tuks have. A lot of active suspension going into these as they make that charge through. You can see the shocks there in red as they make the charge forward. 2:30.4, currently the quickest time in qualifying right now, but that is set by Sai Prithvi, but that was a 2:30.6, so no real shade of improvement there. A lot of drivers trying to get to grips with the limit around this place. This is this is very much here, Saiduth, a track of three-thirds, I think is the right way to say it. You've got that very fast first sector, which has that long straight for overtaking. You then have the second sector, which is all about pinpoint accuracy as you go through. And then effectively what you have is a transfer section through the final couple of corners, a few sweeping lefts and rights to end the lap.
Absolutely, Jake. I mean, like you said, these cars are definitely rolling a lot. You can already see that the center of mass of the entire vehicle is quite high. And you can see the suspension elements just compressing all of the springs. Yesterday in the mock race, we saw some of the rear tires, usually the inner rear tire, lifting off the ground as you go out of turn number 15, I believe, the penultimate corner as the track dips down. Yeah, it's a very technical section in sector number 2. We saw a lot of cars going wide over there. Definitely, even though these cars are relatively slow, that understeer is definitely heavily penalizing as you go through those fast chicanes.
And we have seen it from time to time how things can get very difficult. If you are here with us and enjoying the action that you're seeing here in qualifying, you can always like, share and subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by IR eSports. You can catch every race that we've got on demand when it comes to our YouTube library. There is Ryden Samravel making that progress over the long straight towards turn number 4 out on track. It's a very tough braking zone. You've got this 1 kilometre straight which has come into play, of course, which is, I would say, traditional of a Herman Tilke design track. In onto the brakes, it does narrow up through this section. You can see from the aerial perspective just how much it does narrow, and then you start to make that way into the middle sector, and this is where things get very interesting. He is up 6/10 here, is Sam Revell in the opening sector, but it's all right being able to put the power down. It's now the middle sector where you need to make sure that you are just carrying enough momentum through these very tricky lefts and rights, and of course that big carousel-esque corner all the way down at the bottom end of the circuit.
Yes, definitely one of the most characteristic, maybe one of the most unique double right-handers or double left-handers, in fact, that you see across the entire selection of former and current Formula One circuits. Definitely, there is quite a bit of banking over there, but as you exit that corner, the road just tends to straighten off, crossfall. Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what happens when it goes wrong. You get a little bit of contact there from behind, and then you're fighting to make sure you've still got three wheels on the ground, making sure that you can keep the car planted by all intents and purposes and make sure that this one continues out there. It's going to be very difficult today as well to work out who exactly is who going out there and trying to make those positions, especially in this battle right now when they're all running in yellow and black colours right now. It's like watching a couple of Hornets go out there and try and race at this stage. So a lot of drivers then trying to make sure they find those times. But as we have seen, it's not so easy to string a lap together. Prithvi 2:30 flat, 8/10 quicker than anybody else in qualifying at this moment.
Interesting you mentioned Hornets there, Jake. Actually, I did a little bit of digging and saw that the engine that's modeled into this vehicle is actually based off a Honda Hornet, so it's a 600cc engine. By no means a very small engine, but I figured out these cars are roughly one and a half times as fast as a typical Formula student car that you would see potentially running through this circuit on certain competitions. But yeah, as we saw, if qualifying is this exciting with this many potential incidents, there's no knowing what exactly is going to happen in the race. I think this is going to be an absolutely thrilling race to watch.
I certainly think so as well. There is Oshan Kathadia then in second position right now in qualifying, 1/10 to Munjal Savla in third place. So Oshan with a little bit of work to do over the qualifying lap. There is Munjal Savla, who is just about in, I would say, no man's land over the course of this lap. But here is the progress then going through and looking to gear up then. Here is Kathadia for another attempt of a flying lap. Savla as well, also looking to gear up for an attempt, as those times have been coming in on the board. There is Sam Revell, hoping to improve. Middle sector now starting to search, and what we are going to be seeing as well is how hard are they going to be battling here today, Sidus, because you've got a vehicle which, by all intents and purposes, the cabin that you race in is rather small, but the wheels on the back rather wide, which is going to make putting a nose down the inside very, very difficult.
Absolutely, and in addition to that, these cars, funnily enough, actually have pretty good turn-in as you go into the corner. That could be, that can be derived from the amount of camber you can see on the rear tires. But rightly said, you said that those wheels are sticking out at the back. I think this is definitely going to be a slipstreaming game, especially down the back straight, right between turns number 3 and 4. It's quite a fairly long straight, and these cars tend to reach their top speed of about 160, 170 kilometers per hour just before about 30-40% of the straight. So if a driver is potentially, 15-20 car lengths behind, they can still make up a lot of time.
Tell you what, I'd be scared going through the middle of the city streets at about 170 kilometers an hour, let alone in one of these, as they try and really get the maximum out of it. There is Navneet Kumar gearing up for a flying lap, because that is going to be 10 minutes 35 seconds on the board. Is currently 2.7 seconds adrift in qualifying at this stage, and Prithvi has continued to just chip the gap down, or up, I would say, in this qualifying session. He's now got it up to a 2:29.7 overall. That's now 1.1 seconds over anyone else. Sam Revell has jumped up into third position, and Navneet Kumar currently in position number 5. Tells you all you need to know right now, Sidus, is that this track, they are starting to find their limits, but with only about 3 minutes 30 seconds remaining, you've got to be out there on track if you want to put a lap in, because this is a long lap.
Definitely. I mean, given there are only 15 drivers on the track, but there still seems to be a lot of traffic, surprisingly. So it looks like a lot of these drivers have come out and just trying to put the last couple of laps if possible. Those who are on their current lap may just be able to squeeze one more lap out of this qualifying session. But yes, as the qualifying table right now stands, Sai Prithvi is roughly a second ahead of second place man Munjal Savla. So if this stays this way, if Prithvi can get a good exit out of turn number 3 at the start of the race, I think he's got the race mostly in the bag. But there's a lot of time left to find out whether that's actually going to happen or not.
There are no guarantees as Munjal Savla has jumped up to second position with that lap 2:30.7. We take a little look from behind on this long run on this straight going over towards turn number 4, and the ability to go out there to attack this section of the lap. It's very much a case of you see some drivers who can make this section of road happen, others maybe not as much. You can see just trying to get through, had to just straighten out the steering slightly, did Munjal Savla through there because of the fact that he turned in so early for the corner. 1:11.4 currently the quickest on that sector. You can already see 0.8 of a second down on the opening sector alone. So this might just have to be a gear up for one more representative lap. And you're also talking about the fact here with 1:53 on the clock remaining, they don't have much tyre tread, so to speak, of to go and play with on these vehicles. Very, very small wheels, which means that they're going to have to be pretty much looking at go-kart tyres the way they're trying to drive around here.
Absolutely, definitely. And it looks almost from this view that doesn't really seem like there's a differential in this car. It looks more like a spool drive, which means that if they get off track, they're just going to be shredding their tires. If they get onto a split new surface with two different friction values, they're more often than not going to go outwards onto the grass. So another understeer. Oh, as he gets a big moment over there. Yep, these tires are really tiny. So when you hit a sausage curb like that, it's definitely going to throw off the vehicle balance.
Well, it's going to not only throw off the balance, but I would say you definitely feel it in the seat of your pants, so to speak, as you try and charge. 1 minute remaining in qualifying. Drivers who set their times are allowed to finish them as they start. So Savla, with one more attempt to go around, will be now gearing up for this final flying lap and hopefully improving that lap time. It is a relatively short run to the start-finish line, so we should be seeing that. Sai Prithvi currently in control, Savla second, Kathadia third, and Samravel then in fourth. It's then a 1.3 second gap backwards over to this driver, Navneet Kumar, who is there in fifth position. Look at that, just cocking the wheel through their turn number 4, struggling to keep all tyres down on track as he tries to make this charge towards the middle sector. And this is where you need to start gearing up that lap, making sure that you count all of these corners, because you can see there you're almost having to drift your way through every corner.
Absolutely, it's all about more about steering control for the entry, but if they cook up the rear tires a bit too much on exit, they are going to have a massive oversteer moment. We've seen this in many races in the past. Oversteer can also ultimately end up sending you outwards when you correct that steering moment. As you see, a very standard line being taken there through turns number 10 and 11. If you go a bit too wide, that's going to compromise the next exit. Looks like Navneet has managed to stay on track over there.
Yeah, the checkered flag has come out then in qualifying, which means that nobody can set a new lap. But Kumar then making his way up through, taking a little bit of the anti-cut curb on the inside now before the penultimate corner here, up the hill, and then it does fall away down this left-hander. Very easy to spin to the inside with the nature of that corner, but now you start to attack for that final left-hand bend here, going through the final corner. Big curve on the inside as you try and put the power down as much as possible. Here comes the drive to the line. It's not going to beat a 2:29.30, but it is a 31.8, which is good enough only for 6th place because Raghav Budiraja has jumped up into position number 5. A lot of drivers down then in the pits. OJ95 is not at this stage, as a lot of drivers are trying to think about things. Lightning as well, looking to try and get over the line and improve, but will not improve on what is a 2:50 lap time plus. So his lap all but done. Munjal Sabla, though, still out there on the laps. Going to get a little bit of draft in front as well on the run to the final corner. And, well, let's get the weaving going a little bit. Try and warm up through the final corner. A little bit of a wiggle under brakes as well. Are you going to be able to attack on the exit? Not as much as Sabla maybe would have liked coming to the line there. So he's going to be slightly held up. No improvement then on the lap. And that is pretty much going to bring everyone's qualifyings over towards a close. It's a 15-driver field. Sai Prithvi then in control with pole position, 229.720 with Munjal Savla alongside on the front row. It will be Oshan Kathadia and Raiden Samaravel third and fourth, with Raghav Budaraja and Navneet Kumar fifth and sixth. Then you've got Shaurya Kapani there in seventh and Divyang Dodia there in eighth place, with Abhimanyu Menon ninth and OJ95 making out the top 10. There is Vikas Runta in 11th with Lightning in 12th. Then you've got Abhinav there in P13. And following that, you've got Kaushik and Aditya in 14th and 15th, choosing not to set their representative lap times. With qualifying then put in the books, we are going to step aside for just one moment here with IR Esports. When we come back, we'll be gearing up towards the racing action that we have coming forward. Stay with us. Tuk Tuk Racing at its very finest.
Okay.
Lights procedure then soon about to start in what is this battle that we've got going on. There are the 6 red lights. It's 20 minutes worth of action here with IR Esports, and we are underway then for racing action. Great second phase of acceleration from third position on the grid there. That was wonderfully worked by Kathadia Prithvi in control as they take the dive in towards turn number 1, but immediately position lost then as they go on through. Easily done, but they'll fight all the way through 2, and there's contact, and immediately around. They're going to have to scatter all the way around there. Savla now into second position as they now find a way through just like that. Prithvi with control, and that's what happens when those rear wheels do tangle. It was the worry coming into this one that you got such a wide wheelbase at the back that you can tangle, and Prithvi now with a commanding advantage as the pack behind swarms and serpentines.
Absolutely, these cars are deceptively wide from the rear end as you see multiple overtaking maneuvers going on in the background. The slipstream slowly starting to work, but it's going to take another couple of laps for the tires to just reach the right temperature and conditions to work as they enter the end of the straight. And there's already another collision happening right behind Sai Prithvi.
And then Navneet Kumar goes around and finds himself in the grass on the inside. A little bit of contact. Vikas Runta from 11th position on the grid is now already up into P3 after all of that drama off of the start. So has really managed to profiteer and gain from what was some very, very difficult racing then to start. A little bit of a mistake from him though. This is going to allow Savla immediately through, past him as if he wasn't there going through this section with such a long lap around this place. This is going to be very short in terms of lap count for this one. Abhimanyu Menon then in 7th position. Kathadia is all the way back now in 8th position at this moment in time. So a lot of work to come along at this stage, but at least for the time being, there is still time on the horizon to really chase down the gaps.
Absolutely. Looks like Oshan is still managing to stick with the pack, so it doesn't seem like he's gotten any damage from that first lap incident. However, like you said, it's going to be quite a short race, but roughly about 8 laps if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, a quick, pretty clean Sector 2 for most drivers, as you can see. No real entanglements as the grid starts to space out a little bit as these drivers come to complete the first official lap of the race.
Yep, so that official lap comes into play. Savla looking to attack then for second place with Raghav Budaraja here, and there could be a chance on the run towards turn number 1 as they cross the stripe and put a lap down in on the book. Raghav then did well over the start. Look at that, all the way to the pit wall trying to defend. You can really punch a hole through the air if you are the driver behind you. Really going to take an advantage with such a tall car as Savla can't quite get the tuk-tuk through, but gets a great run on the inside. He'll be on the wrong side towards turn number 3, but really it's all about that slipstream because you've got such a big tall car which leaves a massive gap in the air. Look at the up and under, that's wonderfully done.
Absolutely, you can see from that aerial view over there. I believe that was Vikas Runtka who actually spun a little bit on the exit, on the apex of that corner. So that's what happens when you cook the tires and you don't consider the banking of the road coming into picture. Like you said, yeah, they're just punching a hole through the air, and right now you can see the way the slipstream is working. I'm quite sure we might be seeing anything up to a 3 or 4 wide situation down the straight later on in the race.
Well, that will all depend if drivers chase up. Kathadia already up into 6th position right now and is absolutely flying on the brakes. Is going to lose the place, at least initially, there to OJ95, but you go straight back up and under, and that's how easily you can really make those overtakes happen. You can start to really notice here how these drivers are trying to work things out. This is a car that needs consistency through the corner. If you're going to be brave and send it down the inside, yes, you can get it to turn. There's the wheel kicking up from Sharuya Kapani there in 5th place, but you do realise at these early stages that you're just going to be losing a lot of time because you're not going to be able to get that power down, and acceleration is really a key to this vehicle. You don't have much of it, but you need it.
Absolutely. I think it's more of a balancing act, this vehicle, looking at, seeing that they're just 3 tires doing all of the work as opposed to a conventional 4-wheeled race that we would see. So if you overload the front tires, you're going to get understeer, but if you give too much throttle on the rear, you're going to get oversteer. So these vehicles might look small and simple, but oh boy, are they difficult to control, as you see another wheel race moment over there in another car on this track.
And that's another thing they have to be very careful about, because these vehicles are so tall and so stacked. It is very easy to pop one wheel in the air. It is very easy to stack up on these machines, and it's actually quite easy to roll them as well. There's a bit of side-by-side in the background there. I think that's Navneet Kumar jumping up a place. No, that's OJ95 getting through on Abhimanyu Menon then for what is the 8th position. So a lot of work still to be done here as we find ourselves over 5 minutes through, so already a quarter of the way through this race. And the big key is now finding those overtakes. There goes Shauria then, as this becomes another chance to overtake. A little look to the outside, trying to get it done on Vikas, who again really profiteered off the start, but now you're starting to see where out-and-out pace is coming into play. Takes that big wide line, defending this one up the hill into turn 3, the widest part of the circuit, but it's gone a little bit deep there as it does plateau off, and suddenly that's 2 for the price of 1.
Definitely. Another thing to notice is that these cars, I don't think they have side view mirrors. Even if they do, if you have a cockpit view, especially in this sim, it's not possible to see what's happening behind. So it's all about judging where the driver is, judging their speed. As we see, a wheel-to-wheel battle going on here down the main straight. Can they catch up to the car ahead? Can they catch up to Oshan and reel him in?
Yep, so now you're starting to see where it comes in. Vikas Runta then on the brakes in towards the section. You can see those red arrows on screen. They determine exactly how close you are in front or behind of the driver. So he's very much in this train. He very much has to be careful about this battle as they head in towards turn number 5. This is one place he can get it done. Thaddeus up to 4th then, and you can see just how wide that's gone through the section, and Vikas then go for a half spin. That's going to drop him back into 6th position. That's what happens when you race up near the front. You get the pressures of drivers who are maybe a little bit quicker, closing down the gaps and closing down the positions inside it. That's really where you start seeing maybe all of those issues come into play.
For sure, and it's not just about maintaining position, it's also about nailing those lines, because contrary to what we would think, these are small vehicles, but they understeer so much into the corner that it's almost like threading a needle through sector number 2. If you compromise one entry, it compromises the entire sector, and you lose roughly 3 to 4 seconds, as we saw that happen to Rohit on this occasion.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to take a little bit of a breather at this stage for just a couple of seconds. There's more racing coming up as we head ourselves towards the second half then of what has been fantastic racing so far.
Okay.
Oshan Kathadia then immediately looking to attack for 3rd place. There's contact, took way too much trying to go through the corner, and then for the price of trying to get by Raghav Budaraja, drops back into 5th position as Sharia Kapani moves up through into position number 4. Just like that, the positions change, but don't count on that for too long, because Kathadia, despite the hit, is going to be coming straight back with that toe, and look how strong it is over this 1K straight here, Sideth.
Really interesting exactly to see the way how much time you lose upon contact, but then how you can instantly gain that time back just by slipstreaming through that straight. I think that is definitely going to be a deciding factor for potentially these 3 drivers for the final podium spot if it stays the way it is right now. But judging by how exciting this has been, anything can happen with roughly 10 minutes left in the race.
Yes, and that's where we're really going to be seeing how this plays in. Raghav Budaraja, 3rd position, probably looking behind in the mirrors more rather than in front at this moment in time. This has really been a case of trying to keep yourself in. There is the race leader, Sai Prithvi, and look at the gap that's already started to form. Only now coming into shot, you could see Munjal Savla. I put that gap at somewhere in the realms of about 10 seconds at this moment in time, which Munjal Savla has to try and close down. I don't see that happening in the not too distant future, but then you've got Raghav and co trying to play defense here, because Kathadia, who definitely had the pace to challenge there for P2 in this race, wants P3, but of course that spin off the start has really put back expectations.
Absolutely. It looks like 3rd is probably his best chance at the moment, looking at this battle over here as we just round off the penultimate corner once again. And let's just have a look at how these cars take the final corner. It's really interesting to see the different lines taken by these drivers just to eke out maximum performance from these tires.
but it's that maximum performance that is going to be coming in through these sections of track, running a little bit wide off the exit. That causes a little bit of a wiggle, trying to gain the traction back again, and here's going to come the move then. To the outside goes Cathadia, looking to pick up third place. They cross the stripe and now look to try and make that progress forward, and Cathadia then on the outside is going to have to be committed through the corner, and he gets it nicely done, just running it through. Takes a little bit too much though, trying to gather back the car again. That's where the oversteer comes into play. This opens Ragav up the hill then through turn number 3, and this is why turn 1 is also going to be a very tough place to get moves, because if you can get a run out of 3, you've got a chance to attack. Look at that, immediately hard to the inside goes Cathadia.
Absolutely, Jake. It looks like, yeah, turn number 1 for sure is definitely going to be another key corner, but I feel like turn number 4 is probably just as detrimental, because you have a good slipstream. As you can see, coming up from behind, Raghav is making a move on Oshan. Yeah, so he's quite easily gotten past. It's almost as though he's using DRS. That's how much the slipstream advantage seems to be on this straight. And he does take the inside line, a more conservative line, and Raghav has gone wide, and Oshan has managed to keep that position by the end of that straight.
It's such an inviting corner, turn number 4. You can easily put it down the inside by about 7 or 8 car lengths, but then you have to slow it up and make sure you make it through the corner. That's why that out to in to outline again becomes the big key when it comes to races like this. There is OJ95 in position number 9. In front, Abhimanyu Menon, who found a way forward, but still there is a long way to go here in this one. Still left 8 minutes on the clock. Vikas Runta then in 7th position here is going to be the next chase target then up for Abhimanyu Menon and co. And Cathadia, you can see already pulling out that gap, has got well over a second to play with. He's not going to be in too much trouble now behind from drafting effects, but you can see just how much you have to push through that section of track. There's the extend, so to speak, going through this section. Ragav now looking behind at 4th place now, having to defend. Sharia Kapani wanting to follow in the footsteps of Cathadia.
Absolutely, you can see just from the exit of turns number 10 and 11, if you overcook the tires and take the banking to its extreme, you're going to run off onto the runoff area. The target that these drivers should have is the green AstroTurf just between the curb and the runoff. That's where they want to plant their rear wheel to get maximum traction out of that corner. As we round off another lap, looks like a little bit of oversteer and another contact as we enter the corner between Vikas and Navneet Kumar.
Yeah, just like that. So Vikas having a bit of trouble out there, I think it's the right way to say. He was doing well against Navneet Kumar, but now the gap starts to open up again, and this is where the frustrations will start to lie in terms of some of the battling that we have seen. Ragav still trying to hold off 4th place as they go through the opening corner. It's not quite there at this moment for Sharia Kapani, but still there is waiting on the horizon, getting a nice and narrow line going through. Did just slightly get a bit of air, but is well within range to try and make that move. And it's almost like you have to try and play psychology here, Sider, on this straight. You have to try and get that move done. If you get to the inside, you have to shepherd the driver over to the outside. If you're on that outside, you have to make room for yourself.
Definitely, Jake. Psychology is the right term here. It's also about reading your competitor's mind. Do they want to squabble amongst themselves, or do they want to form a drafting train and catch up with Oshan up ahead? We'll need to wait and see, because 3rd place is starting to run away right now. If drivers start squabbling amongst themselves, that final podium spot may not be up for grabs by the final lap. We'll need to wait and see. Right now, there's quite a big gap to the driver ahead.
Absolutely, you can see that gap at this stage. It's really, really opening up. Another little look then towards turn number 5 in the technical middle sector here at the Buddha International Circuit, just on the outskirts of New Delhi, the capital. But we're going to step aside for one final time, ladies and gentlemen. The conclusion to racing action in these tuk-tuks come up after this. then towards the back of the field. Yash Pikler then in 14th position, over 100 seconds back on the race leader. Rout there in 12th, fan favourite traditionally when it comes to this sort of racing, but a little bit further down the order and searching for a bit of time. Sidar Snell there as well will be hoping for a good charge through, is in position number 11, chasing down Lightning there in the 10th place. Nice pack going on as they battle, and then OJ95 suddenly looking aggressive. Ryden Samravel has found a way through up into 8th place, only temporarily though, because again, it's an up and under attempt here, Cider, to get it done, and Samravel's got the drive now all the way to 1. Oh, contact on the straight. That's what we were talking about with those rear wheels.
Absolutely. When you look at it from the driver's perspective, they actually can't see. I mean, and the front wheels are deceptively close to them, so it's very difficult to judge the front of the vehicle. It's almost like just a plank right in front of the driver, as Raiden seems to have gotten a good exit out of turn number 1. Is he going to make a move through turn 2? No, he doesn't. He's going to take a wide line to turn number 3, lifts a wheel off and spins out. That's what happens, especially when you overcook the tires on the outside of that off-cambered corner.
It's more than off camber, it just plateaus when you go through that section, and then all of a sudden you've got the front wheel trying to grab for grip, which is very much not there from the uphill section that they go. A little look from behind to see just how strong the draft is. 3:20 left on the clock. They will get to finish the lap when the clock does strike 0 in this race, so no real dramas at the moment heading in towards turn number 4, and there you can see that lick of flame which comes out of the exhaust as well, which really does make things very interesting. There is your race leader, by the way, Sai Prithvi, out there in full control at the front of the field, hasn't been able to pull away or extend that gap any further compared to Munjal Savla, but has just been managing the gap Sideth over the course of this race, and that's where it was really won. Got a gap early. Yes, there was contact at turn number 1, but after getting that gap, nobody saw him again.
Definitely, it's just about getting a good start off the line. Just a little bit of trivia, just being a little bit off topic. It's very similar to what happened today in the X-Prix, the first race of the Extreme E race. It's all about just getting off the line as well as you can and just getting that slight visibility advantage. In this case, the visibility, of course, being making sure that you can actually see where your competitors are around you. As we've seen multiple contacts through this race, this could potentially be the last lap. There is a chance if Sai Prithvi can get across the line to complete one more lap.
Well, it's going to be quite close. Then there's the battle for 5th and 6th. Navneet Kumar has worked his way through both Raghav Budaraja and Sharia Kapani, and has done really well to get himself back into this race at this moment in time. There is Kapani. We take what we'd call the chase view at this stage, moving towards turn number 1. But the big disadvantage he'll have right now is that Raghav will just about be in the toe in front of what is going to be Navneet Kumar. This is going to make things difficult for the pass down into 4.
Absolutely. I think this is the point where drivers need to start throwing the dummy and see whether the driver ahead takes the bait. On this occasion, it actually looks like perhaps that one-wheel rear end corner style does seem to do the trick. Just gets a bit of momentum out of the exit of that corner. Can Shaurya lock onto the slipstream? Doesn't look like he's looking into the slipstream. Perhaps he's just positioning himself for a wider line into the next corner.
I don't think he was close enough really to go out there and make a move, so no point to really follow. Give himself maximum attack through turn 4. That gives him turn 5 then as an ability to attack out there on circuit. So they go through the right again, that inside right of the rear just kicking up a little bit, making things difficult to try and judge how much grip you actually have going through the corner, because when you get that wheel back down, you suddenly have an extra wheel, an extra contact patch, an extra bit of grip to go and play with through now the tight middle sector. And there comes a little chance look at the inside, door covered nicely by Raghav, who's taking a nice smooth line. Does push a little bit too hard there through, I would call that bus stop style section. You got then this nice transfer right and left. Sai Prithvi, though, will be coming up towards the final corners pretty soon to see whether this is going to be the last lap or they get another attempt around this circuit. He's making his way to the final corner right now. He may have lap traffic to deal with. Just 5 seconds to go on the clock. I think He is not going to get another lap in. Sai Prithvi will come to the line. Checkered flag comes out. He takes the victory here in this special event here that we've got with IR eSports. Munjal Savla will take a very resilient second position, has to be said, and a little bit of a wait for Oshan Katadia, who had to really recover after that spin early on in lap 1 to bring himself back into play then. Position number 3 to round out the podium. And Sideth, that one was pretty plain sailing at the front. Behind those, still going on.
Absolutely. I think the first two, as Oshan gets
dear.
a big moment while weaving to the final corner. Has he crossed the line? I'm not too sure about that. But we've got Navneet and Raghav coming up behind. Doesn't look like Oshan made it across the line. It seems like Navneet is back third place. And another collision by the end of the race. Seems like maybe these drivers just cooked the tires a bit too much at the end of the race.
I think Kathadia was trying to celebrate that third place, and then he's found the wall, which is always the awkward position. But now it's time to get themselves over and celebrating for this one as they bring themselves towards the end. Still, drivers will be looking to cross the line. And it wouldn't be a special event or a fun event like this if they are not given this, I would say, leniency at this point, Siders, to go out there, do a few donuts and feel quite happy about the way that race finished there. It was 4th position in the end for Oshan Katadia. It's that short run to the finish line there, which probably saved him 2 places.
Absolutely, I think that was a very, very confusing but extremely thrilling finish to the race. Yeah, and what I mean, the best part about sim racing, you can have a big donut festival at the end of a race like this. This has definitely been a very exciting race. It's thrown out a lot more than I'd expected, but there was so much close wheel-to-wheel racing that this is definitely one of those super fun races to be a part of.
And Raghav there with the perfect circle as we bring things over to a close in terms of the race. Official classified results, we'll be able to get them on screen hopefully in the next couple of moments, but really the challenge has certainly worked. We are going to be able to bring in maybe a couple of drivers for a bit of a conversation. First and foremost, Sai Prithvi joining us, a big race victory overall. But Sai, gets a little bit controversial off at the start, a bit of contact which gave you the gap you needed to never look back.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what exactly happened at that incident. When the lights were about to go out, I couldn't switch to first gear, which was really scary. But somehow I managed to pull it off, although it did cause for me to have a bad start. Then turn 2, Oshan managed to get ahead of me, but we were side by side. I'm not sure exactly whose fault it is, and I can't blame anyone for it as long as I don't see the replay. So I think it's a racing incident. These things happen. If it's my fault, I apologize to Oshan. But otherwise, after that, the race was actually pretty good because Munjal was actually putting in really fast laps, and I had to push really hard to win the race. Somehow I managed to keep it consistent, although I had some scary moments in the infield section of the track. That was really enjoyable.
Well, it is a very enjoyable car track combination, so to speak. But let's just talk about how difficult it is to go and pilot around this place. It was Prithvi, yourself with the win, Munjal second, and Oshan coming back to get third place. But let's talk about how difficult that was to drive. Yes, it's 20 minutes on your own, but with a vehicle like this, which is constantly trying to throw up the rear wheels in the air, how difficult was it to keep it all planted on the island?
Yeah, so I had to turn on traction control to make sure I don't spin out or anything because these are quite challenging. From the outside, it might look funny and it's like a joke, but it's actually a really fun car, if you can even call it that, to drive. It was really, really interesting because if you brake, you get a lot more understeer than your normal car. So trail braking doesn't make much sense. So you have to use the throttle to rotate the car into the corner and hope the traction control keeps you stable and doesn't let you spin out.
And of course, with a big victory like this, you've got a lot of focuses on the horizon as well. So in terms of now how you focus, how you gear away from what is a fun event like this, you looking at maybe trying to pick up some big results coming up in the future?
Yeah, of course. First of all, it's really good to be back racing, even though it's a really fun combination. And I'm looking forward to season 5 of IERC. It's going to be on Assetto Corsa, which is this game anyway. So I'm ready to put in some more practice, and I'm really excited after this result to see what I can do in the actual championship when it begins.
Well, we got you the opportunity. Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank at this point for what was a very, very big victory for you here tonight.
Yeah, actually, I would really like to thank IR eSports, Rayo Racing, and Indy Karting for hosting this wonderful race. They didn't have to do it, but they did it anyway. Hats off to them for hosting this and everything. It was really well done. I appreciate them.
Cyprus then coming over the line, picking up the big victory overall. Second position went to Munjal Sabla, joining us right now. Munjal, very clearly for you, a good opportunity there to get a good start, got yourself up to second, but really just a case of not being able to close down.
Yeah, I think I got stuck initially behind some guys, and then it took me around 2 laps to overtake them. And by that time, the gap with Sai was 6 seconds, and I think more or less we were trading the same times, lap times, and thus I could never catch him. It stayed consistent. Good fun race though.
A very good fun race, a very hectic race off of the start. Of course, you started a little bit further down in the pack, so you had work to do as things went through. But you found yourself P2 pretty quickly after what was a hectic opening couple of corners. But from there, how did it feel for you just trying to put some laps together, knowing that, you know, you're not going to be driving this car or car, if you can call it that, for too long? You've just found yourself in a position where maybe it was just, I can keep that gap, but maybe if it wasn't such a hectic start, you may have been in a better place.
Yeah, so my aim was not to keep the gap. My aim was to close the gap. I was taking it like as if it was qualifying, and I had to, each lap was a qualifying lap. And thus, I actually did some of my personal best laps in this session way faster than my qualifying laps and even my practice laps. However, I think it wasn't enough to actually catch Prithvi, and the gap was too great at the end. But yeah, you never say never, right? You keep pushing till the end.
Absolutely, you do. And of course, it's still a very, very good result, second position. It was a very hard fought race up and down the order. But for you, a case of now moving to something potentially more stable for season 5 coming up.
Yeah, totally. This was a one-off, I think, and it was super fun. I don't know if the audience response is great. Probably the organizers could think of actually doing more races like this, because the way this three-wheeler, I mean, for the lack of a better term, handles, it's crazy because it's so snappy, it's so oversteery, it's insane fun, right? Racing it is fun with others. In terms of season 5, I am not sure if I'm taking part in it, but this race was fun.
Well, all the fun for you. Of course, P2, anyone you'd like to thank after picking up what is a pretty impressive result?
To thank is mainly my family, and they have been supporting me over the past few months with my hectic racing schedule, and a lot of compromises there. I mean, a lot of people think virtual racing. I would say virtual racing takes more time and effort out of you than real racing, because you practically are on track every day, right? So yeah, that's where all the thanks goes to.
The grind never stops for Munjal Sabla, position number 2 overall in this one. Finally, we will bring Oshan Kathadia into the conversation. Oshan, that was a great drive back through the field, especially after what happened at turn number 1. Just take us through your perspective of how you got yourself maybe a little bit further down the order than you'd like.
Yeah, so I had a really good start. I mean, I launched late, but then my second phase of the launch was really good. So yeah, I mean, I caught up with Sai just before the breaking of turn 1, so I was side by side. But I was trying to move away because I saw him. He's on the curbs, and yeah, these three-wheelers are like really bad to be on the curbs. And I knew he was going to get spat out from there, and that's why I was trying to move away, but I was already too late to react on that. So that's how I ended up 15th or 17th. I don't know.
Well, from 15th or 17th all the way down into position number 3, you have to be really happy. Just talk about how you had to carve your way through the field with drivers of varying difficulties in terms of their pace, trying to come to grips and accustom with this sort of car. It looked like every single battle had to be fought slightly differently through what is a very technical track.
Yeah, so I think it was all about setting up in sector 1 and 2, because the moment you went in the chicane section at the back side of the track, yeah, it was very hard to overtake. So it was all about setting up for the main straights, especially in the braking zones. So that's where basically I was trying to make all the overtakes. And yeah, one or two people maybe fighting each other, it helped me because then I could just yeah, capitalize on both of them together at times.
And of course, with what has been some really strong results in IR eSports and the VW VRC as well, you can put up into that as well. In terms of now building up momentum here, a very nice ability to come through the field right now surely serves you good purpose for Season 5 of IR eSports.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somehow I just enjoy Assetto Corsa's Thai model. And I mean, you've seen me race in the Volkswagen Championship, and I could keep up with Amit there. But when I race with him in iRacing, I'm nowhere. I'm literally 2 seconds off pace. I don't know why. I've tried to figure it out, but I have no answers to that. So I enjoy Assetto Corsa that way. So yeah, season 5, if it's in Assetto, I look forward to it.
Well, you're certainly going to be looking forward to that. Before we let you go, Oshan, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Yeah, just thanks to organizing this lovely race. I mean, yeah, we do normal cars, but tuk-tuks are something really different. And yeah, it would make some give some different perspective to racing here as well. So thank you for organizing that, and to you as well for awesome comment.
No worries at all. Oshan Katadia then third place on a recovery up through the field. Sidif, though, just final thoughts as we bring ourselves to an end of racing here at the Buddha International.
Yeah, Jake, this was a very exciting race. Definitely, it may have been a runaway victory towards the front end of the field, but oh boy, did we have some really, really good battles from, let's say, from third place all the way down to around sixth or seventh. So yeah, all in all, has been a jam-packed race. Definitely very interesting car and track combo, but it really did seem to work at the Both International Circuit. Final thoughts: if there's one thing I've learned about these cars, the slipstream definitely helps.
It certainly does. And of course, there'll be more racing on the horizon. Keep in tune with the socials, be it with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course on YouTube to work out when we're going to be with you next here with IR Esports. Of course, a massive thanks has to go to the likes of Rio Racing and Indy Karting for the work that they have been putting in behind the scenes to help bring things together here with IR Esports. With thanks, of course, to the person who has been on my right-hand side for the entirety of this duration, Sidith Ramesh. I've been Jake Sperry. Nice win for Sai Prithvi, one that he can definitely put into the bank and say that he has reasons to be happy. Yes, it's fun at the end of the day, but a win is a win, it's a win. And if you have a chance to put a W in your column, you have form, and now you try and take that form over to what is next. We'll see you in Season 5 for IERC.